We'll start a little bit more active this time, so I need everybody to rise up, because I want you to swear an oath. It's a very easy oath. Everybody rise up. Come on, wake up people. That's the oath. Because in life you can choose to be curious or you can be judgmental, so I swear I choose to be curious. Everybody, I choose to swear to be curious. All the time. Perfect. Everybody stand up, because I'm going to take you on a little journey. I come from a very small village in Germany, and I'm working against all odds there. I'm a lone maker. Nobody's around there. And I'll show you where the village is, who lives there, and what I'm doing there. So my talk is called Why Makers Matter. Because even if you're alone, you can do a lot of things, and I'll show you in a second. But first off, welcome to my village. It fits into one photo. That's the whole village. That's everything we have. It's a very small town in Germany, and it's called China. And so from China to China, here I am.
Wow, I love that.
Where is this village? This village is located, if you go to Berlin. We'll start a journey there because people know Berlin, and we slowly start getting closer to the village. So I ask everybody who's living in a city that is bigger than 3.7 million people to sit down, please. Anyone that's living in a city with more than 3.7 million people, you can sit down. Yeah, that's Berlin. That's the biggest city we have. If you go down south for 2 hours, you arrive at Leipzig. Leipzig is way more in the countryside, only 200,000 people living there. And if you live in a city that has 200,000 or less, or more, I'm sorry, please sit down. You see, look around, almost no one is standing. And that is the issue, because if you go further down south, about an hour outside of Leipzig, you arrive at Zeitz. And Zeitz has only 40,000 people. So if you live in a city with 40,000 or more, please sit down. There's only a single person standing up right now. And I welcome you to be one of the very few to live in a very small village. Yeah, you know how it works. I live in China, and China has only 1,000 people. And you and me, we're the 20% in Germany that live in such a rural area. There's nothing around there. Like, it's very far outside, there's no infrastructure. But China has some great qualities, but it's very far away, like 9,000 kilometers. My first trip abroad, so it's a long journey, and I thank Violet and the team from Seed Studio for inviting me here. Very grateful to you. But this is exciting, but I'm also a nerd, so we know how to get to China, but we don't know yet who lives there. So I'm all about data. So in Germany, we have a lot of data on demographics, and I quickly walk you through it. It's very fast. So right now, we have about 1,000 people, and the average age is 49 years. And I mean, you don't have to remember any of this, but right now it's 150 children, 590 working age, 260 seniors. That makes, for 100 working age adults, you have to care for 44 seniors. That's right now. If you look at the forecast, go over it very quickly. I swear I have a point. The forecast tells us there will be less people in my village. In 2030, we're only 860 people left. And you see, it shifts the whole dynamics. 119 children, less children, 475 working age people, even less working people, and a lot more seniors compared to the rest. So now 100 workers will support 62 seniors. And that gets worse. So in 2050, there's a projection that we lose almost a quarter of our population in the village. So it's only 92 children, 383 working age adults, and 275 seniors. But I don't want to bore you with statistics. I'm just very much into it. And I'll teach you a little German. This is hä. Yeah, perfect. So if you know, hä is an expression of bewilderment when you're confronted with new information or something you didn't know about. And in China, I hear hä a lot. Especially if I talk about data and gathering it and making stuff. There's not a lot of people interested in what I'm doing. So, to sum up the statistics, we will lose 25% of our population by 2050, and almost half of all of the people still living there then will be over 65 years old. Very old village. Very little young people. And that's actually the issue, because more seniors mean that we have a ratio that goes from 3 working people caring for 1 person to 2 working people caring for 1. And that carries very serious consequences, like more seniors need more care. There's fewer schools, fewer children, fewer volunteers for like festivals, and it just spirals out of control. And it's someday my village will be dying. And that is why I made this talk, because it's actually an issue in Germany with a lot of small cities. We're dying out. There's no one coming to save us. So at one point, every young person in our village will have to work harder, care more, and without any change, nothing will happen. I mean, you're makers, if you don't do something, nothing happens. And I think it's a crying shame, and that's why I did this talk, to encourage more people. Because if you're confronted with new information, you have the choice to step in. And so if you look at data, you can be curious about the data, what it means, what it entails, or you can be judgmental and be like, yeah, nobody's having children anymore. And I decided to do something, and do something with data. And that's actually why I'm here today. Because people like you step in. They look at data, they look at facts, basically. But in our village, we have a mayor who says things like, climate change is not man-made. And we're confronted with opinions suddenly. Usually, data eats opinions for breakfast. We all know that. Makers love this because it's very logical. But in my village, there's a ton of opinion happening, especially in governance. And that is an issue, because by trusting opinions, we're in a burning car running down a hill. Nothing is really happening. People are screaming at each other, and we're not looking at the facts and doing something about them. So, in order to save us, I looked at data, because I noticed that data just measures, right? We just look at facts. But opinions, they argue, they're loud, they're trying to be of importance. Data, they listen, like a sensor just collects data from somewhere, it's just quietly sitting there. But an opinion can be shouting in your face, can be very loud. Data also connects people. Like, if you share the same beliefs and you're working on a project, for example, and you're looking at the same fact, it can connect facts and people. But on the other side, opinions divide. And in my village, that's a huge issue. So what happens when your village has no IT staff? There's nobody coming to save you. You have no budget. And the future is looking very grim. Somebody has to do something because there's no intrinsic interest in change. And so I started collecting more data. I showed you the demographic data before, and I decided, okay, what about we show people that the environment is actually changing? What about we show people they can do something about it by doing a little project? And I chose this to be a LoRaWAN project. For any non-technical guys, I explained it really quickly. You want to gather data? Great. You want to do it wirelessly and with a battery? A little bit harder, but luckily for you, there's LoRaWAN. It stands for Long Range Wide Area Network. And that means we have sensors that are battery powered, and we can just throw them into the village somewhere. And now they sit there and they report back every 15 minutes. We can collect the data wirelessly. And the best part, all of this is license-free. At least in Germany it is, in most other countries as well. So we get a license-free, battery-powered sensor network. Great. So we can gather data now. For a nerd, that's super exciting. But in my village, nobody cared. I told this to people, I was super enthusiastic about it, like, this is the technology we could use. And they were like, what? That's not our issue. And that really hurt me. Honestly, if you're passionate about something and you tell people about it, I even went to the mayor's convention there. There was like 20 people, and they're like, we have water around, we could do this. And we're like, we don't understand. So at first, it was really bad. It was a bad feeling. But then I thought, oh, great. Nobody cares. Nobody will stop me. So we can basically turn something that is negative into a positive thing. And so I was like asking people, can I put a gateway up there? So basically a gateway is the device that everything connects to. You have to put it somewhere. A single gateway is enough for a village. Like has a whole lot of coverage, like 13 kilometers upwards. And so I was asking people, and they were like, oh, you're not putting anything anywhere. And I'm like, okay, then I do it on my roof. It's not ideal, but it was done. So that was the first step. And still nobody cared. I even won an award. Nobody cared. I did a brochure and just gave it to everyone in the city. Nobody cared. And then I learned something that it's not enough to just build a network. But if you're interested in it, that's the coverage we reach. That's like the whole village. with just a single gateway, and now I could put sensors anywhere. Great, I can now gather that data. But if you want to be your own LoRaWAN provider, like a network provider, I have a few steps you have to take, because it's not enough to just put the hardware there, sadly. You have to run an open source stack, and I didn't know how to do this. So I started documenting how you can do it, and this is the very short tutorial. What you need to run a LoRaWAN. So first off, I told you I'm a nerd, so it gets very server nerdy now. First off, you need a local, what is the name? LNS. I forgot the abbreviation in English. But basically, you have to register your sensor somewhere, right? It's like a car license plate. But every sensor needs to be registered, and then you have a view of the devices, and you have basically the network layer. So you're organizing your network. And this is open source, by the way. You can run it yourself on a Raspberry Pi. And then you need to show the data somehow. So I use ThinkSpot Community Edition. It's also open source software. You can basically provide people with, like these dashboards. There's a rule engine, so if you want to throw an alarm or something, you can do that. And there's also a database behind it. So you're saving your time series data. Again, it's running on the same server. Then there is NoCoDB, because I was like, okay, I want to share all of the data that I'm gathering. It's not my data, it's open data. So I had to set up a database, which is NoCoDB, also open source. You can run it on the same server. You see where this is going. This is used for data export, import, and basically just a copy of the database for security reasons. So everything I did, I then shared under the open data, which is like a license by the government of Germany, and you can download anything I'm showing you today over the open code page, which is basically just a GitLab, right? And I tell people it's a very great project because I thought of myself as a little dumbass, so back with me, because I had to write tutorials. I didn't know how to set up a server. I didn't know how to run a LoRaWAN network. I didn't know how to do anything or even do correct measurements. That can be tricky as well. And so I started documenting everything in very easy language, because it was made for me. It was made for someone who has no idea what he's doing. And like half a year later, I wanted to look at it and basically read what I had to do. And so everything is documented in easy language. It's localized to German. I noticed that's a big mistake. I should put it in English soon. And then every little step is explained with pictures and anything I could throw at it, like media types, photos, anything you need to explain it. And yeah, what do we collect now? We have a sensor network, great. You can put sensors anywhere, but now we have to have use cases, right? And I wanted to do some environmental monitoring, but the first use case we actually found was in our public swimming pool. We have to issue, Germany is a country of regulations, and if your swimming pool has too little water, you're not allowed to open. We're a small village. We require the pool to open in time, so we have the entry fees, so we can pay for the pool. And that is why we monitored the pool level. And now the pool could open in time. And it's just a €90 project. This is a single sensor just measuring the depth of the water. And once it gets below a point, we just throw on a pump or somebody gets there and takes care of it. Very easy thing. Pays for itself like instantly. I have the presentation to download later, then you can also access the links to the tutorial as well. And I took the same idea and was like, okay, we have a local creek in the village. Right? There's water flowing through. And I wanted to know, are we affected by climate change? Maybe there will be droughts in the future. Maybe we will have floods. We don't know. Nobody cares for this little creek. And in Germany, it's like this, that the government is looking at the rivers, but nobody's taking a look at the creeks. And we all know a river is made of a lot of creeks. So I figured, okay, maybe we can monitor every creek in the city. And that's what we did. So I slapped another sensor on it, and I now share this information with a local university who's doing studies about water. And yeah, it was basically the same idea as the pool. And then I went to the local municipality and was like, hey, you're using a lot of energy. Why don't we put sensors on your radiators so we can save up 30% of your heating? It's all LoRaWAN, so they're connected to LoRaWAN and they report back. You have a statistic of how people are heating the rooms, and you can also change the timetables. And that will be saving 30% of energy, so it pays for itself in almost 2 years. And that is pretty great, but it's not done yet. I'm sorry, I have to do a lot of sensor projects, and this one is a large-scale deployment, so I'm working on it. Maybe this winter I will be finished. And then I thought, okay, now we look to our farmers, because our farmers are very, very busy people, and they also have a lot of issues with regulations. Everything is getting more expensive. And so we looked at a sugar beet. The sugar beets is something we have in Germany to make sugar. And one farmer was telling me they have the issue of a fungi growing there. It's called Cercospora. And this is basically a plant disease. And this plant disease actually only grows at a certain condition. That is, I think it was 90% humidity and more than 50 degrees temperature. So all we did was slap some sensors on the field there. And once we hit those marks, we just went to spray a fungicide. They have to spray it anyway, but they had the ability to spray less. And the beets were very thankful because they produced more sugar. They hadn't had to fight a disease, right? They had more power to grow sugar even. So that's instant success as well. But that's just one of the examples what we can do. Oh, power cut up? I'm just joking. That's actually an issue in Germany that we sometimes have, that we have power losses, and especially with the new environmental factors. When we have power loss, it's a big issue because we can't communicate them. We can't call for an ambulance. I told you how far out we are with the village, right? So if anything happens, we can't just call anyone for, hey, I broke my leg. Good luck, cowboy, getting to the next hospital. Nobody's coming to help us. And so I figured we could use the same technology with a different twist, and that is you can also use LoRa as a mesh network, which is basically you put like solar-powered sensors like this on nodes, like I'm carrying right here, in the field, and you connect them with each other, and then you can write your messages or have predetermined emergency calls, or you get information about where you get water. And we're setting this up together with another village in Brandenburg, which is called Am Mellensee, and together 2 small villages in Germany are working together on a concept that is basically emergency resilience. Because we don't want to be left behind, so we take them, right? If villages are connected to the next big city, we can call for help, we can get information. But we have to do it ourselves, sadly. So, a lot of times people ask me, okay, this is great. So, Keiner Funk is the initiative's name, and oftentimes I get asked, okay, this is so many projects. This has been online since 2024, so last year, only a year. So people ask me, how many people are you? And there's a sad reality, and that is, that would be me. So there's no one else fun. You remember the oath you swore? Choose to be curious. That is very important because you can do all of this in your spare time. You don't have to wait for anyone for permission or anything like that. And it works very well. So Makers Will Matter, that was the original name, but I changed it to Why Makers Matter. Because they're doing it right now. Like any one of you is changing their community as you speak. And this is pretty great because from all the troublemakers, the Tinkerbell, the Queen of Shitty Robots, there comes solutions to your local communities. Like we think we're just fucking around, but honestly, you're changing the people around you with what you're doing because you don't take no for an answer. And you also refuse to wait. And that is a very, very great quality. I'll be finished in a second. So, within 1,000 people, you always find a nerd. There's always somebody interested in something. And makers, especially, they have what I call digital leverage. So they can turn a statistic like this, you've seen this before, and accept that they're part of it and then just flip it around. Because makers turn what they have into what they need or their communities need. And that is basically the message that I'm bringing you, because I have a mayor who's denying climate change. But I think data that we gather will kill the opinions that we have. I think that collecting data can actually shape the governance you have, shape the decisions you make. So there's power in that. It brings transparency to, like, trust me, bro, politics, which we're experiencing right now. So we're going from believing to knowing. And if you can measure it, you can change it because you know where to start. If you can share it, you can also multiply it. We heard that a lot of times today. And if you can, I wouldn't say make it, but rather if you can imagine a better future, you can start building it. And that is what I think all of the nuggets that you find, all of the data points, all of the little things, they turn out to be little treasures that you can use for the future. And that is why makers matter, why you matter. So that's it. That's all I have. That's the story of a little bit in Germany. Thank you so much for having me. And if you want to have like the professional stuff, I do a lot of things I get called the Laura influencer since I've been doing this project because nobody else was talking about it. You can hit me up on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on anything you find me on. There's work email. I work professionally as a technical consultant in the field. There's a project email if you want to do something about like an open source village. And there's also my private number. So I trust you guys with it.
That was a very great talk. Very interesting. Do you see people understanding the value? Like, have people started understanding the value that you're adding to your village?
A little bit at the time, but I still have to travel 9,000 kilometers for people to care. So,
well, we can tell you it's very cool. It's very, very cool. Yeah.
There's a few communities that are more open to this kind of thing, especially around the public pool, because it should have been closed already. So there was a community forming, actually keeping it alive. And they used the dashboards. They actively used them, and they started to request more data, which is great because it gives me a point to work off. But in the beginning, it's still magic for me. And I figured I can't confront them with all the technology. I have to bring them solutions. And if the solution works, fine. And they request more. So talking about it on site is not really helping them, but rather building it. So I figured, okay, maybe some other people can use the information and are interested in how to build themselves. But yeah, I want to have a resilient community that is not dependent on me. That would be very bad. Yeah.
How much did it cost to fund all the hardware?
That is the best question ever. So,
thank you very much. So, did you get any funding for it?
Yes and no. So first I had to use my own money. And then later on I figured out how to do it way cheaper. And in the beginning I had to pay like $800 for the gateway that you saw. It's a lot of money, especially if you're paying it out of your own pocket. But I went to the state of Germany and was like, hey, I'm building an open source network for citizens. And we're like, oh, we have funds for that. I'm like, what? And so I could use the investment to leverage that, and it basically got 20,000 euros from the German government to build up more communities. And now I have a lot of sensors and gateways lying around, and nobody wants them because we're covered already in my town. So I built a little makerspace on an e-bike. So I travel around to small villages and explain to them what they can do with it. And I'm trying to find 5 more locations because it's already paid. I'm not using it for myself. I'm using it to try to teach new communities to get it. I had to pay it myself in the beginning. But usually if you have a village that is interested in it, it's a number that most villages in Germany, at least, they're able to pay. But I could suggest something that is like $200 to start off. Like this is the cheapest it will get for a gateway. $200, and then you have like 90 euros to 200 euros per sensor. And like I said, usually they pay for themselves in a year or 2 years. So if you have something that saves you money, it's an easy thing. But the infrastructure itself, we have the gateway. Then you have to have like a server. You can run it yourself in your own hardware. It's, like I said, open source. Or you can do what I'm doing, rent a virtual server, like $15 a month or something. But that is also covered by the grant for 10 years. So, yeah, and I documented how to set up the server because that is one of the things that I saw a lot of communities not doing. And then the person who did it vanished or moved or something, and then basically their stack was useless. So that's the cost of the project. So start with $200 for the gateway, you have like 15 euros for virtual server, and then 90 to 200 for the sensors.